Taoiseach, it is obvious that you are running away from a debate on the Housing Commission report, which we've been asking about for weeks and weeks and weeks. One of the major contributors to that report was the National Economic and Social Council, who gave a presentation to the Commission in March of 2023, where they referred to the need to engineer in permanent affordability into housing policy. They referred, by the way, to the housing policy as dysfunctional. They said there was an emergency response required, and they said we needed active managing of land for the public good. For the public good. You refuse a debate on the Housing Commission before the end of the recess this morning, and at the same time we get an announcement that you've signed a legal order which will waive the requirement for social and affordable housing on a site like the Ainger Street site, which is in public ownership. And that repeats the ongoing policy of this government, handing over land or just responsibility for dealing with the housing crisis to the market and to private for-profit interests. Like, when are you going to change tack and at least debate the issues about the Housing Commission report?
To Deputy Boyd Barrett, I don't want to repeat points I made earlier in this House, but I do need to point out that the land for the DIT buildings was always land that was in the ownership of DIT, as opposed to the direct ownership of government, and there was legislation passed in this House, the Grange Gorman Development Authority, that understood the purpose of the disposal of that to fund the work at Grange Gorman. The Land Development Agency did confirm in writing that they had no wish to acquire that site, but even had they question it? No, because government's intention always was to allow for those sites to be, for every single cent of funding is going into the delivery of a health clinic on the West Quad, including a number of new schools at TU Dublin. That's separate and distinct to the work that we're doing with many other public sites, and indeed the extra capital that we've put into the Land Development Agency. I think you have a different view from me in relation to whether the Land Development Agency should even exist, but the Land Development Agency is delivering a number of projects on public lands. I think it's unfair to suggest that the DIT buildings were ever intended for anything other than the purpose of providing funding to TU Dublin.